Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Running with Shane. In today's video I want to talk about self-discipline, what it is and why I believe it's the most important thing that anybody needs in life. For me personally, self-discipline is about showing up for yourself. It's about sticking to the promises that you make to yourself. It's about not cutting corners, not taking the path of least resistance. It's about doing what is hard but necessary when it needs to be done, whether you feel like doing it or not. It's about weighing up the outcome. If I do this now versus if I don't do this, how will I feel as a result of that decision? So first of all, the promise. If you promise yourself something but you let yourself down on that promise, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be with exercise, it can be with anything. You have to think about how that translates back to yourself. And what I mean by that is, if you're a parent and you promise your child something and you keep letting that child down on that promise, eventually that child is going to grow up believing that he or she isn't worthy of whatever it is that you're promising that person. It's going to erode their self-esteem. But if it was the other way around, if you showed up when you say you're going to show up, that's going to build that child's self-esteem. The child will see him or herself as worthy of whatever it is that you're promising that person. It's the same when you set yourself a promise. If you tell yourself you're going to do something, but on a consistent basis you let yourself down, there's a hidden message within that, and that message translates to, I don't mean enough to do this thing that I said I was going to do. And like I say, it erodes your self-esteem, it erodes your confidence. Now, switch that the other way around. When you make yourself a promise and you show up when you say you're going to show up, the hidden message in that translates to, I value myself enough to take care of myself. I value myself enough to stick to my promises to myself, to show up and to do what's right for myself. So that's why showing up for yourself is so important. You have to think about the message that it translates into, if you don't or if you do. Right then, building self-discipline and what it means. So, self-discipline is not something that somebody can give you. It's not something that you can just, one day when I feel more self-disciplined, I'll go out there and do that run, or I'll go to gym and do this. It doesn't work like that. You see, this morning when my alarm went off just before 5 a.m, I did not want to get out of bed. I didn't want to go for this run. I could have quite easily stayed in bed for that extra half an hour or that extra hour. And if I had done, That's the definition of choosing the path of least resistance. You see, the short-term gratification is that I get to stay in bed, I get that extra half an hour or an hour. But what's the long-term problem as a result of that? You see, if you don't practice self-discipline, all your other disciplines in life start to deteriorate. And the opposite, when you practice self-discipline in one area of your life, all your other disciplines start to strengthen. Running is my preferred method of self-discipline. For you, it could be something else. But whatever it is, the act of self-discipline is showing up on your promise and doing it whether you feel like doing it or not. It's about not cutting corners, not taking that path of least resistance. It's about forcing yourself to feel uncomfortable to some degree. So for me, feeling uncomfortable is, waking up at 4:30 in the morning, going for a 5.5 mile run before I go to work, especially if I've had a bit of a break in running. Say like I've had a bad cold or a bit of a flu or something like that, then that's an exception of a time when I may not go for a run. And that's okay, because you've got to take care of yourself. Going for a run when you've got flu isn't good for you. It's not good for your lungs. Despite what people might say, sweat it out you and all that, you're best off resting. Because rest is also a progress. But back to my point, it doesn't matter when I look out that window if it's baking sunshine or if it's raining, snowing or blowing a gale. If I've made myself a promise to go for a run, it doesn't matter if it's -3 degrees, I'm going. It's about being prepared, having a regime which works for you. So for me, I like to have my running shorts, t-shirt and my shoes all ready for me in a pile downstairs next to my dining table. I do that the night before I go to bed. I wake up, I don't allow myself any longer than 5 seconds to stay in bed. I count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and I'm up. I'll go downstairs, I'll flick the kettle on. While the kettle's boiling, I get dressed, make myself a coffee, go to the toilet, put my running shoes on. I do not allow myself any longer than half an hour to get out that front door. First discipline for me, get up when I say I'm going to get up. Second discipline, get out of the door when I say I'm going to get out of the door. Third discipline, do the run that I say that I'm going to do. Do the distance. You see, going back to doing what's hard and necessary versus doing what's easy. The payoff for me to do what's hard and necessary far outweighs the pain if I don't. Going for a 5 mile run in the morning will be the hardest thing that I do all day. So anything else after that, bring it on. I'm equipped for it, I'm ready for it. It makes me feel mentally sharper, physically fitter, healthier. And like I said in my previous video, it gives me a sense of confidence, which is very personal to me. But most of all, it's a feeling that only comes from doing what you promise yourself you're going to do. Like I said, I could have quite easily stayed in bed this morning. I had a rough night's sleep. I reckon I got about 4 hours sleep. I did not want to wake up this morning and go for a run, but I forced myself. And I knew 5 minutes into my run that I'd made the right choice. Because I felt it. I felt that discipline instantly. I felt good about what I'd done. I felt good about showing up for myself and sticking to my promise. I'd like you to think about a time in your life when you'd set yourself a promise and you didn't show up for yourself, and how that made you feel. And if you're happy to share it with me, I'd love to hear it. So anyway, I'm going to get going because I'm near a main road now. It's going to get noisy. But have a nice day, everybody. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.